This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This episode is brought to you by Marshalls, where you never have to compromise between quality and price. The buyers at Marshalls hustle hard, working to bring you great deals on brand name and designer pieces. Because Marshalls believes everyone deserves access to the good stuff. Visit a Marshalls store near you or shop online at marshalls.com.
Welcome to Gabfest Reads for July 2025. I'm David Plotz, one of the hosts of Slate's Political Gabfest. As far as I can tell, and that means I did 2 Google searches, there are a lot of states that have poets laureate, but none, as far as I can tell, has an official novelist. This is a shame because my guest on Gabfest Reads today would surely have held that title for the last 30 or so years in Florida. Carl Hiaasen is one of Florida's great treasures. He's the author of 20 or so novels about his state, a dozen or so other books, nonfiction-y books, and young adult books. Hiaasen's books, almost all of them bestsellers, have been turned into TV shows. I see a Bad Monkey poster behind him on the Zoom screen here. Movies, the movie Striptease, which I did not know, songs. And now he has a shockingly current new novel, Fever Beach, which tells the story of incompetent white supremacists teaming up with a fail-son Republican congressman to try to disrupt an election. Fever Beach is it's buoyant, it's extremely funny, it's a beach read. It's a beach read for the person who doesn't like put their outrage away when they go on vacation, because it is connected to today's outrage. So, Carl, welcome to the Gabfest Reads.
Thank you. Thanks, David, for having me on.
So who is Dale Figo, the incompetent white supremacist at the heart of Fever Beach? What is he trying to accomplish? And also, why was he kicked out of the Proud Boys?
Well, he was kicked out of the Proud Boys. He was there on January 6th at the insurrection. As if you'll remember, a lot of people stormed into the Capitol, and some of them thought it'd be a great idea to defecate in the Capitol as a political statement of some sort. And so he joined in to that activity, and he basically took a dump on the wrong statue. He chose a statue that he thought was Ulysses Grant, when in fact it was a Southern Confederate general revealed by the Proud Boys there in the South. And so he was 86th. He got thrown out of the Proud Boys, and then he got blackballed from all the other, mainstream white supremacist groups. And so he now wants to start his own group. He's decided he's going to start his own group.
And why does he want to do that? What is he trying to accomplish by starting his own group?
Well, I think he feels sort of cut out of the movement, and he doesn't really have a lot of other identity. He wants his group to have a little more freedom because I don't know if your listeners know this, but it's an absolute fact that among the regulations, the strict regulations that the Proud Boys imposes, a very severe regimen against masturbation. And they have a whole thing about it for whatever reason, I don't know. But Dale figures that if he can pick off enough disgruntled Proud Boys who really want that freedom back, he'll be able to start his own group.
So there's been a lot of talk in recent years about the need to try to understand on the left, like Democrats are like, why do we keep losing elections? Why do we keep losing to Trump? Need to understand the people who are so frustrated with the American system that they support Trump. Do you think that's a useful exercise? Because you've created a set of characters in Figo and the congressman Clairvoyant, who's a dead ringer for Matt Gaetz, who are really unsympathetic and who I'm not sure would benefit from us understanding more about them. Would they?
No, there are certainly some voices that are worth listening to, and then there are some sort of reflexive idiots, and I'll tell you what I mean by that, because the whole genesis for this novel started one day when I went out to my driveway. I live in Vero Beach, Florida, and I went out to my driveway to get the newspaper, and there was a little Ziploc baggie that had been weighted down and thrown into my driveway.
Oh my God, for real.
For real.
This is an event in the big that happens in the book. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and all the driveways on my street had been, decorated with this. And so I opened this little Ziploc thing up, and it's just this, vile anti-Semitic screed in there. And, I know most people would have reacted with revulsion, and I did. But I also, just as a writer, my first thought were, who are the numbnuts that are driving around throwing these baggies randomly in people's driveways? And what must their lives be like if this is the level of sophistication? And they actually think they're accomplishing something or bringing anyone over to their side. I mean, and eventually, this was going on in Palm Beach County and Martin County and county where I live. And eventually they arrested a couple of geniuses in Palm Beach County. And you might be shocked to know they're exactly who you thought they were. Let me just say they were not deep or pensive political thinkers. They were just vandals. And at the time they were arrested, the only statute in Florida that would apply is like a trespassing statute or a public littering statute. And I think since then the state has made the distribution of hate literature in that fashion a crime. But that's what set me off, because I thought, this is like a two-man job. Somebody's got to hold the baggie open. The other guy has got to pour in the pebbles to weight it down and then put the track in. And then when you're driving, it's a two-man job. Somebody's throwing the tracks out the window, and the other guy's driving. So there had to be two of them. So Dale he's recruited a partner who's a little bit ambivalent at first, but he too, his partner wanted to be very much in the Proud Boys and part of the January 6th thing, but he had babysitting duties, and he resents his kids for the fact that he couldn't go to Washington and be part of all that. So Dale comes along at just the right time for him.
So Fever Beach is coming out now. It came out this spring then, even. But it takes place in a second Trump term, although I don't think you say Trump's name. How does that mean you wrote it in a month?
I had actually had the manuscript done, and I had not written it in a way that particularly foretold the election either way. But I had assumed when I was writing it that it was going to be another litigated election, and it would go on for months. It would be the same stuff we went through before. So I wasn't committal. But once it was clearly a decisive election, I had to go back. I felt I had to go back and certainly redo some dialogue, shade some things to make it reflect sort of the new political reality, at least for the next couple of years. So yeah, I was scrambling around to do that, but I tried to. It's so tough when you're writing about current events in real time. In a novel, there's a gestation period. You just don't turn it in and it comes out. It could be 9 months. It could be a year before you actually see the book in print. So this one that we pushed the deadline on it because I felt that there were things I had to polish up.
So Fever Beach is a very funny novel where the MAGA shitheads, I'm not going to give too much away, but they, more or less get their comeuppance. And the national government is pretty distant and irrelevant. But the America that we live in the summer of 2025 is not that funny. The MAGA shitheads are triumphant and everywhere, and the national government is bullying and punishing people all over. So if you were going to set out to write Fever Beach today, do you think it would be a different color? Would it be less buoyant, less optimistic? I mean, that's not your novels are pretty funny and like it doesn't seem to be your temperament.
Yeah, satire definitely has a target. I think all good satire is written out of a sense of frustration, a feeling of injustice, or the need to sort of bring somebody down a peg or two. And I'd certainly have more colorful details, but I'll tell you this: as warped as I am, I couldn't have invented alligator Alcatraz. I wouldn't have even tried that as a fictional entity. And yet here we are, and here I am sitting in a state where we have a leaky tent city that was put up in the middle of hurricane season, and where you have people with pending immigration cases are now in cages, and there's nothing funny about that. And I mean, but the point of satire is to take reality and crank it up a notch or two, and it's obviously almost impossible to do that with the current administration, because there's almost nothing you could create or write that isn't going to happen. It will happen. As crazy as it is, it will. It's very, very hard to beat the headlines.
Alligator Alcatraz actually sounds like a coinage you would come up with.
I know. I feel a little bit. In fact, the first day of demonstrations outside the facility, there was TV footage of someone holding up a sign and with a big sign said, "Is this a Carl Hiaasen novel? Or are we in a Carl Hiaasen novel?" And it was on a bunch of people sent it to me. And my response would have been, I wish it was just a novel.
There was an article in the Washington Post this week making the case that art, in particular, was looking at dance, but it was saying it was the most effective. Art was a more effective form of protest against authoritarianism than protest is. Do you think of your work as, in any sense, you talk about it as satire, of course, but is it protest? Are people supposed to read it and it inspires them to action? Or it's more just to give them pleasure and then to laugh at a dark world around them?
I think the second thing, I think that, and when I was writing my newspaper column all those years for the Miami Herald, it was the same thing. It wasn't so much to affect change as it was to make people know that there are others who feel the same way. They touch the people that are frustrated and angry, like I am most of the time, and say, listen, you don't have to be quiet. You can get angry and say something or do something. But, any writer that's in his or her mind that says, I'm going to write this book and change something horrible in our society is deluded. I don't think it works that way. I don't think you can aim that high. I think what you've got to do is be true to your own feelings and not be, if there's something deserves to be made fun of, and God knows Florida is a target-rich environment for that, then you should stick to that and not back down and not, when I was doing the column, I told my editor, when I start writing columns about something funny my dog did today, just sneak up behind me and grab me around the neck and drag me out of the newsroom and I'll be gone. That's not really, you get paid when you're writing an opinion column, you get paid for your opinion and presumably about something fairly important. And the issues that are in this novel, even though I wanted it to be funny because you're holding something up to ridicule, and sometimes it can be something dark and nasty that you're holding up to ridicule, but nonetheless, you go after it.
You live in Florida, so definitionally most of your neighbors are Trump voters. Do you? But maybe not in your. Maybe not.
Yeah. No. So, in my county, absolutely.
So, what do your neighbors who read your book say? What have they said to you about Fever Beach?
You're assuming that I have some communication with writers are solitary, and actually, I've heard from many of them who actually like the books. I get letters from people saying I'm a Republican, or I'm a staunch conservative, but I enjoyed your book, but I hate your politics, that sort of thing. But I'm not very, and I've never been my whole life a social person. I don't go to parties. I don't hang out, and I don't actively solicit opinions of people about the novels. I mean, I have, my editor and my agent and my wife and my kids, if they like the book, that's fine with me. But I think you'll go crazy as a writer. And some writers are good at this. They send manuscripts out. They'll send a dozen early advanced manuscripts to their friends and want to know what their friends thought of it. It would destroy me if I was getting negative feedback on that. I admit to being a coward about it. I just go out there and take my chances, and I hope that the finished manuscript is something they like.
This episode of Gabfest Reads is brought to you by Quince. If you're not big on trends, but big on clothes that feel good and last, you should check out Quince. I am all over Quince this summer. I have 2 Quince shirts that are kind of going back and forth with me. One is this white shirt. It's sort of a dressy short sleeve shirt. I always am looking for a way to look decent in a meeting, but cool because it's so hot in Washington. And I have this white, very crisp button down shirt. When I want to go out at night, there's an extremely light black shirt that I love wearing, which just fits like a dream. Basically, those are the only two things I've been wearing this summer. Quince has all the things you actually want to wear on repeat. Breathable flow knit polos, crisp cotton shirts like the one I'm wearing, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. And the best part is that everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/gabfestreads for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/gabfestreads to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/gabfestreads.
On top of building this fake volcano for months, I give my daughter Smarty Pants vitamins to support her brain health. So her science fair project sounds more like and less like. And while I may say it's not a competition, of course it's a f***ing competition. Choose Smarty Pants vitamins to support your kid's brain health and save the science fair. Shop on Amazon, smartypantsvitamins.com, or at Target today.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
I'm always looking for ways to show my cat how much I love her. And with Fancy Feast gems, I can pamper her whenever I want with a savory gravy on top of a gourmet mousse pâté. The pyramid shape makes serving simple, so all I have to do is peel and plate to make mealtime feel extra fancy. And with 2 entrees in every pack, it's easy to turn every day into the extraordinary. Fancy Feast gems.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Did you ever meet Matt Gaetz? You've never had an occasion where
No, I've never.
Because you satire him just brilliant.
You think there's a resemblance?
There's a small resemblance.
Yeah.
The congressman in this is slightly like Matt Gaetz. Yes.
I've never met him, but I've followed very closely and I'll tell you why. Right after I retired from doing the column, which was in the spring of 21, it was only within a matter of months that the original Matt Gaetz story broke about the Venmo and it was the first time I was really regretted that I still didn't have the column, because it was like a slow pitch down the middle of the plate, and I wasn't there to take a swing at it, But I've seen him in action like the rest of the country. I mean, I think the most touching moment was when he showed up at the Britney Spears rally chanting "Free Britney." I thought I was moved. I know the rest of the country must have been moved and didn't think there was anything weird or strange or twisted about that. But look at what's happened, though, David. I mean, Florida used to be by far, it was just assumed to be the weirdest and weirdest place in America, and we deserve that. We deserve that reputation. And now with Trump in the White House, and he's importing all this talent from Florida. And now you're seeing the sort of the curse, the Florida curse is now affected Washington. I mean, look at, you've got Pam Bondi, you've got Marco Rubio, you've got talk show hosts from here that are, deputy director of the FBI. And I mean, you've got, it's like it's been exported to Washington. And
that's a really interesting point. So how would you, if you were going to describe what that means, what is it that has been exported? What are the qualities of Florida-ness that now the rest of the country has to deal with?
Oh, David, I think it's all our best and brightest. Have you seen Marco Rubio's face when he gets his picture taken during these meetings? The deadness in his soul at this point. This is a guy that spent his entire political career in South Florida, which elected him, railing against Fidel Castro, railing against Moscow and the Russians, and now he has to. Up until last week, he had to play nice and pretend that he abandoned Ukraine, which had been. I mean,
okay, but yes, he's a hypocrite. No, I understand. He's a hypocrite. Yeah. But what is it? You're an observer of Florida. What is it? What does it mean for the whole country to become ruled by a Florida sensibility?
Well, I think you have to have an embrace of mediocrity, a full-hearted embrace of mediocrity, of servile and spineless public officials. So you have to be all in on that. There are people in the state government now who desperately want Donald Trump to love them again. Our governor, for one, who really, he's like a puppy. Just give me one little pet. Just give me a little pat on the head. And it's pathetic. But if the country accepts it, this is all there's going to be. This is the best. And you'll appreciate what we suffer through here in Florida in terms of leadership.
You're a former journalist, so you gave it up. Probably wisely.
Well, I was like 46 years. I mean, I was still on probation at the paper. I mean, it was time to leave.
Yes. How do you think there's a way for journalism to effectively cover Trumpism and to survive and thrive the assault on its independence?
There is a serious threat, but I think, yes. And I think it's being done. And obviously, certain institutions, certain newspapers are still strong. I think the networks are still strong enough. Even CBS, I think, can recover. I think my main fear for journalism isn't at a national level at all, because I think there's always going to be aggressive journalists, whether they're from Fox or whether they're from CBS or wherever. But my fear is for local journalism, the decline of the coverage of local news, and small town papers that are going under because the economy, they don't have classified ads anymore. Everything's if you don't have a good web page, you're in the tubes. And there's so many people in this country that live in cities now where you can't find out what happened at the city commission meeting last night because they didn't have enough reporters to send. They could have changed the zoning on your street, and you're finding out after the fact. That's what I worry about and I travel around and I see this, and people are desperate for real news, real facts. And when you don't have the local stuff, then you have folks going online and, going down these crazy rabbit holes. And there's nothing to fill the vacuum. There's nothing to step in between them. And that's what I'm scared about.
So you're allowed to leave Florida, it sounds like.
I'm encouraged to leave Florida. I think they would like me to leave permanently.
Where do you go on vacation when you leave Florida? I think you're such a person I can barely think of someone who's so strongly identified with a single state as you, but surely even Florida is too small to hold you.
Well, on vacation, I go down to Key West and go fishing. Still, I have lots of friends in the Keys. I lived in the Keys for a while, so I have lots of friends down there. I go to the Bahamas a lot.
What did you make of the new Roadhouse movie? Did you watch that?
No.
You got to watch it. It's this amazing movie about the Keys.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Okay. I would be very interested in you watching it. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal as like an incredibly pumped up guy who ends up sort of running a bar on the Keys.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know it was in the Keys. That's a remake of the Patrick Swayze movie. Oh, no. I haven't seen it, but I bet I know the bar. I have a great love for that place. And it's I go there and I have friends up in the Panhandle.
So you just go in Florida. You don't.
No. We go to the Bahamas quite a bit to go fishing, and then the other place I spend a lot of time, which has also got some interesting politics, is Montana. I love Montana. I spend a fair amount of time out there, and that is a very if I wasn't writing about Florida, I'd probably be writing about Montana because there's some great characters out there.
It's the Florida of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Just a couple more things, Carl. So you brought back Twilly Spree from earlier novels. So is there is there a single coherent Hiaasen universe where everyone lives in the same place? And why did you bring him back?
Well, I brought Twilly Spree back. He was in a book called Sick Puppy, which was about the world's most despicable lobbyist, political lobbyist. And that book starts out with Twilly Spree. He's following a car down the road, and there's guys throwing litter out his window. It's like a BMW. And he's just got a trigger. He can't help himself. He loves Florida. And this guy is just throwing like Burger King wrappers out the window. So a long story at the beginning, the guy ends up, he's driving a BMW convertible. He ends up that night with an entire dumpster full of trash emptied into his BMW. He doesn't know how it got there. Of course, it's Twilly. And I had a dear friend in the Keys who had similar impulses and acted on them in similar ways. And so Twilly, to me, he was one of the few characters I got when that book was over. I really wondered where he went and what he was up to. He's very well. He inherited a lot of money, which he's not happy about where the money came from, but he's using all of it to just crusade in his own way against overdevelopment, against corruption. I mean, he's just got deep pockets. So whenever he gets interested in something, he makes it happen. And I thought, well, that's an interesting character to bring back to face off against Dale and Jonas, his partner, and the Strokers for Liberty, which is their new group, aptly named Strokers for Liberty. And I thought Twilly would be a good one to throw into the mix.
He is. Well, it's sort of a mismatch.
Turns out to be, yeah.
Finally, what do you have a next topic yet? Are you going to stick with politics or not?
I think all the novels have a streak of that in them, because I just can't help. If you're writing about the real world, I don't know how you sidestep what else is happening. So sure, whether it's going to be like a political group like this, or whether it's just going to be the general dysfunctional politics of Florida, I'm sure it will. I'm working on something else, but it's in such an early stage. It's one of those things. I don't know if it's going to turn into anything. I don't know when I'm going to throw it away. I throw all these characters. I don't ever start with a plot. I start with a bunch of characters, sort of throw them on this little stage in my head, and just to see how it goes. And if it goes well, I'll keep writing.
Carl Hiaasen's new novel is the delightful, very on the moment Beaver Beach. Carl, thanks for coming on Gabfest Reads.
Thank you so much, David.
That's it for this month's edition of Gabfest Reads. Our producer, Cheyna Roth. Ben Richmond is Senior Director of Operations for Slate Podcasts. We'll be back next month with another edition of Gabfest Reads. Until then, we'll be back in your feed on Thursday with a new episode of Slate Political Gabfest.
For those who want more out of every moment this summer, Mazda has more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than any other brand as of May 2025. What more could you ask for? Discover how Mazda has more to move you today. Visit iihs.org to learn more.
Every Mazda SUV offers you an elevated driving experience and refined performance. Discover it at Mazda of New Rochelle.